YouTube, what's going on? It's Juan Gotti here with yet another Washington football team video, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about a couple wide receivers that the Washington football team should attack at the trade deadline, and also a few scenarios that involves those players, and also a player that we signed yesterday. Yes, we signed a player yesterday. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. But before we do, make sure you guys go down below, leave a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, and turn on post notifications so you get notified when I upload a video about the NFL, in this case our Washington football team. And let's get straight into today's video. Roll the intro, baby. We are Washington. Let's get it.
We Washington, we Washington, we Washington, we Washington, man, we Washington.
So, yesterday, the Washington football team actually made a signing. A guy by the name of Robert Foster, who I've never heard of, is a wide receiver that was formerly on the Green Bay Packers practice squad and also the Buffalo Bills. Let's read about one Robert Foster according to Hog's Haven. The Washington football team has reportedly signed a wide receiver Robert Foster from the Green Bay Packers practice squad. Foster is 6'2", 196, and he was an undrafted free agent from Alabama. That was signed by the Buffalo Bills in 2018. He started 3 games in his rookie year and had 27 receptions and for 541 yards and 3 touchdowns. Last year, he only started 2 games, but only had 3 receptions for 64 yards. He was released at final cutdowns and added to the practice squad. He was added to the Packers practice squad a few days later. So, not a lot on Robert Foster's resume, but with his signing should just tell you how bad this wide receiving core is, and not just because of the lack of talent, but the injury bug has bitten us very hard. I mean, we lost Kevin Harmon before the season even started, and then after that we lost Steven Sims to IR. Then the game that just passed, we lost Isaiah Wright and Antonio Gandy Golden, who's going to be out for a couple weeks. So the injury bug at the wide receiver position has really bit us, and we need all the help we can get. So Robert Foster is going to be coming onto the active roster when we do finalize his deal. So hopefully he can help us out, because you never know. We always have good luck with undrafted free agent signings. So maybe he could be a diamond in the rough again, just how Steven Sims was. I don't really know too much about one Robert Foster yet, but trust me, I'll get in my books and I'll do my studying about one Robert Foster. But as of right now, let's get into these free agents. So the number one free agent on my list that name was floating around was one Will Fuller of the Houston Texans. Now, Will Fuller is on the trading block for the Houston Texans, and this is my number one option to go sign. And I know a lot of people want to say, well, he's injury prone, he's this, he's that. Yeah, but when he's healthy, he'll be a very good number 2 alongside one Terry McLaurin. And we know the Texas franchise, well, I don't want to say the Texas franchise, but maybe they're still having that same thing even without Bill O'Brien. But the Texas franchise are not the brightest when it comes to trading. Look at the DeAndre Hopkins trade. So maybe we could finesse them out of something for Will Fuller. Will Fuller's only 26 years old. Now, his injuries concern me a bit, but his 2020 stats so far is 28 receptions, 455 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So I'll be intrigued to actually go after one Will Fuller, because when healthy, he's really dominant. He could be that number 2 guy alongside Terry McLaurin, maybe even number 1, but I'll say number 2, just to, give Terry McLaurin his job. You know what I'm saying? So when a team double teams Terry McLaurin, who do you have right underneath? A guy named Will Fuller, who on any other team could be a number 1 receiver. But it just seems like on the Texans, he had DeAndre Hopkins. Now this year, he's the number 1 main guy, and he's actually putting up decent stats. But it's like when he was with the Texans prior to DeAndre Hopkins leaving, he was the number 2 guy, and he was always open because people would like to double team DeAndre Hopkins. So maybe that could be the same for him here in Washington alongside Terry McLaurin. And then when we get Steven Sims back in the slot, that could be really a nice little trio there. So I would be interested in trading for one Will Fuller. Now, what would I give up? Maybe me personally, I'll maybe give up a 3rd at the highest, and I don't know, maybe a 3rd and a 4th round pick and maybe a player, but I feel like that's too much. So at the least, I would give up a 3rd round pick for Will Fuller just because he's young and he still has a lot to prove. But at the most, if they're asking for like a 2nd or a 1st, maybe even, because teams are crazy like that and they'll try to finesse the Washington football team out of that, I would not budge. But at the most, I would give up a 3rd round pick for one Will Fuller. So that's my number one favorite. The next guy on the list is Jacksonville's Dede Westbrook, who's also 26 years old and who's off to a rough start in the 2020 season. He only has 1 reception for 4 yards and 0 touchdowns. And I don't know if it's just because he's not talented anymore, which I highly doubt. I just feel like it's Jacksonville. Jacksonville is very bad. And if he can get a change of scenery, he could possibly be something special. Now, Dede Westbrook, he was a part of that team in 2017 when Jacksonville was actually good. And he's just been in Jacksonville for the majority of his career. And I just feel like Dede Westbrook, he's a young talent who's speedy. And we need speed on this team. And I would not be opposed to getting one Dede Westbrook. Now, I'll probably give them a 5th or maybe even a 4th round for Dede Westbrook. But other than that, I'm not picking up the phone if I'm Washington. I know we need a lot of help at the wide receiver position, but the trade deadline, a lot of teams like to finesse. So another guy on my list by the name of Marvin Jones Jr., who's a really good wide receiver in Detroit, and I feel as though that they're not going to want to break up Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones. That is such an underrated duo just because they're in Detroit, but that is a sneaky good duo, and I don't think they're going to want to break up that duo. But if they do, I would actually pick up the phone for Marvin Jones Jr. Marvin Jones Jr. is 30 years old, and yeah, he's on the plus side of age, but 30 is still not that old. It's getting there, but it's not that old. It's right in the middle. So Marvin Jones is a guy that I would like for us to go after. And a reasonable trade, in my opinion, is maybe send them a 4th round and maybe Dwayne. Because, Matthew Stafford is old. And not old, but he's getting there. And I feel as though that Detroit, if they have a high enough pick, they're going to move on from him. But maybe if we offer them Dwayne and maybe a 4th round pick, I would actually accept that for Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones, yeah, he's 30 years old, but he still has a lot left in the tank, and he's a really good wide receiver, and he could be yet another good wide receiver alongside Terry McLaurin. So that is really a good option. But I know a lot of people are going to get on me about the Dwayne trade because I feel like Dwayne, the best fit for him would be Pittsburgh. But I don't think Pittsburgh have anything that they would want to offer us, you know what I'm saying, as far as the wide receiver position goes. So maybe Detroit would be a sneaky team for him and we get Marvin Jones. I don't know. That's just another trade scenario. Now, the last person on my list is John Ross from Cincinnati. John Ross reportedly wants out, and he said, I want out of Cincinnati. And that's a guy that I would actually go after because I know, yeah, he's injury prone. He's been injury prone ever since he got into the league. But this guy is healthy now. And at the start of the 2018 season, he was a man on a mission until he got hurt. Now he's healthy, he looks good, and he only got 1 snap. It's a guy by the name of T. Higgins, who's a rookie from Clemson, who is getting more playing time than him. And he's like, man, y'all complained about me being healthy, or not being healthy, and I'm finally healthy, and you're not putting me on the field. Like, come on now, I want out. And maybe, like I said, for Dede Westbrook, maybe that could be the same for one John Ross. Maybe he just needs a change of scenery, and Washington could be that change of scenery. And we desperately need wide receiver help, and we desperately need speed. So just imagine if we got a healthy John Ross alongside Terry McLaurin and Steven Sims when he comes back. That is just speed all across the board, and the secondary is just going to be lost. So John Ross, yeah, like I said, I know he has injury problems, but he was a first-round pick for a reason. So I feel as though if he can get that change of scenery and maybe stay healthy, he would be better. And I feel like he'll turn his career around. But Cincinnati's just not a good place for him anymore, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? They have AJ Green, who's washed up. You know what I'm saying? They're not a good team. I'm sorry to say it. They look like they're good because they have Joe Burrow, but they're just not a good team. And John Ross wants out, and I would pick up that phone. Now, if you're asking me what I would offer, I'll offer them a 5th round pick for John Ross. Offer them maybe a 5th round pick, or at the earliest a 4th round pick. I just feel like he's injury prone, and we could use that as leverage against Cincinnati. So maybe a 4th round pick. But at the latest, a 5th round, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like teams are going to try to play mind games with Washington and try to finesse us, and I hope this front office doesn't budge. But that is just my quick list of wide receivers. Tomorrow I'll start doing my research on tight ends, and that video will probably come out Friday. So, with that being said, it's been Boy Juan Gotti. Like, comment, subscribe, help to the Washington football team. Let me know what you guys think about my scenarios and my list of wide receivers, and what wide receivers did I miss, or what wide receivers would you guys be interested in seeing us go after the trade deadline. So, without further ado, I'm out. Like, comment, subscribe, help to the Washington football team. Peace.